What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video about The Altars. A very bizarre survival strategy title meets action-adventure in some ways that was initially suggested to me by people who took a look at it during the recent Steam Next Fest, and while I didn't have the time to check it out then, that demo luckily stayed available and still is, which is how I'm bringing you this video now. And right away, I would have to say that people were absolutely correct about this one. This game is pretty wild, and while the actual gameplay of it doesn't seem all that crazy, it does introduce some really unique elements that I thought were really interesting, mainly that you'll have to manage and deal with your relationships with your altars, or basically clones of yourself. After you get stranded on a remote planet and your only hope of survival is to clone yourself for the necessary manpower to do the things you need to do. But in doing so, each of these altars has their own personality, likes, dislikes, etc. And you have to manage those relationships with yourself and with the altars as well, with the game itself promising choices about how you build those relationships and how they progress, etc. So honestly, just a really cool concept. But let's start at the very, very beginning. The game begins with you crash landing on a remote planet that it becomes quickly apparent that you and a team of others were sent to effectively harvest for resources. Specifically, one called Rupidium, some sort of catch-all, incredible resource that they need. However, something went wrong with the landing sequence, and it turns out you're the only person that survived the landing. Everyone else died in their landing pods, but you managed to make it to this sort of rolling base of yours to contact Earth, and through the static you managed to get some basic instructions to effectively start rolling out the basic procedures for you to live. This includes things like setting up drills to mine the area for resources, which is going to allow you to do things like make food, of course, but also get the resources you need to build things like, say, metal. That part of it's kind of your basic survival strategy. You'll go out, you're on a timer, you've got energy, you've got to grab resources to go back to your base and build things. Now, your base itself kind of reminded me of XCOM a little bit, to be honest, as it sees you sort of snapping tile pieces together within this circular wheel that is your overall base, and apparently you'll be able to expand this later on to get more space and set up the facilities you need. So far, so straightforward, but a little ways into the game, you'll discover this resource they've been after, called Rupidium, and apparently the reason they want it so bad is that it vastly increases the rate at which organic things grow. And given that you're the only person on the ship at this point, and you also have access to a resource the company that sent you here desperately wants, they finally decide it's in their best interest to help you, granting you access to the captain's computer logs, etc. And through this, you learn that this company has what they call a mind profile of everyone on board, including yourself, which is all about your entire life, its ups and downs, etc. And while that's creepy enough in and of itself, it turns out that the reason they have this is because utilizing the resource of Rupidium, they're able to establish breakpoints in your DNA sequence to establish who you would have been if your life took a different course, which is where the altar thing comes in. So you use Rupidium ultimately to make clones of yourself, and these act as people you can assign to chores and jobs and things that need to get done to ensure your survival, because the reason you need to do this and do it quickly is that the planet you're on is very dangerous in terms of radiation. Basically, if you manage to be caught out in the proper sunrise of this planet, you'll die. Which means you have to get this base rolling and moving to all sorts of different areas to set up and harvest resources to get to an area where you can finally be evacuated with your acquired resources for this company. But along the way, you have to manage all of these altars of yours, and they made that part much, much more interesting than it could have been, because realistically, they could have just made this a simple resource that you can assign. But instead, it treats these individual versions of you like they are individuals. They don't necessarily get along with you, they'll argue with each other, and the demo has a pretty big portion of things you can do to sort of influence those relationships with versions of you. And all in all, the roughly 1 hour demo took me from mildly interested to the premise to the point where I'm definitely playing this when it comes out. Which probably shouldn't be too much of a surprise to me, as it is being published and developed by 11-Bit Studios, and I've liked a fair few of their recent releases, including things like the Thaumaturge or Indica. And my main questions for this title would be, how involved and impactful are the choices you make about the relationships with your altars to the story? and how much does the gameplay actually evolve? Because what they showed in the demo was just very basic survival crafting type stuff, but I'm curious if it goes much farther at all than that, or just, how impactful that part of it winds up being. Because I'm alright with a great story and okay gameplay, but at the end of the day, I would say the make or break for this is just how well implemented both of those sides of this are. But at a glance from this demo, very cool concept, a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be, and you might want to check it out for yourself if you haven't already. But I can almost guarantee I'll be reviewing this one when it drops, and it is supposed to be coming sometime in 2024, but no release date otherwise. But with all of that said, that's pretty much going to do it for this particular video. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about this title down in the comment section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.